Hello, you guys got me right in the middle of a drink here. So, for those of you, well, nobody's joined yet. So, for everybody that's watching this after the fact, welcome to the live broadcast. Glad you made it. I will warn you, I've been having some problems with live broadcasts lately. I don't know what it is exactly, if it's YouTube or what. But if the video, crashes, if I have to start over or whatever, just come back and check again. This is a live broadcast I do pretty much every Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central Time. And it's just pretty much an ask me anything, answer the questions that come up in the chats, and just let the chat kind of drive the chat or the broadcast itself. And goes for about an hour. So if this video crashes, check back. There's probably I'll come right back online as quick as I can. Let me get all set up here. I see we got some people joining now. Hello everyone. Give me a moment here to get set up. We'll get going. All right. Who we got on? There we go. Okay, now I'm good to go. So we got, let's see, Giant Angora is first in here. Hello. Diana, I guess I'm pronouncing your name right. Hello. Assault Wolfpacker, huh? Hello to you. And Houdini Two Wheels, hey. Izzy is the fifth one. Isabel, hey there, Isabel. And Izzy's the first to like the chat. There we go. All right, so Nikki, hello. Thanks for your info on how to hatch quail eggs. I'm getting some tomorrow. Hey, no problem. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your new hatch. Hopefully they do well. I don't know if you guys can hear in the background. Incubator sitting over there. I had birds start hatching yesterday, so you might hear some chirping and some rustling around. They're a little active right now. They're still in the incubator, though. Not sure how many. I can't see through the glass, the foggy glass there. But I got baby birds anyway. They're going to be moving to the brooder probably tomorrow morning. All right, Christopher Stone says, hey, Chris, I have one 4-week-old quail. Horrible hatch last time. And 40 in the incubator hatching in a week. Will I be able to combine the new hatches with the older one without problems? Let's see. It's a 4-week-old quail. I wouldn't put them in right away. Give the babies a couple of days at least, probably about a week and a half. And then you should be able to combine them. They should be doing okay at that point. But let them get a little bit of size to them first, because otherwise they'll get trampled by that bigger quail. It'll just be too much for them to handle. So, hopefully that helps. Hidden Bunnies, hey, you're not late at all. No, you're right on time. Glad to see you. Oh no, Ruthie says, I don't have enough money to get quail. I have to wait until next year. I'm sorry to hear that. I know how that goes. Sometimes it takes patience. You got to save up your money to be able to buy something, but that makes it even much more worth it. So hang in there. Hopefully maybe it'll happen. You never know. Maybe something will come up and you'll find a good deal on Craigslist or something and be able to come across it a little bit quicker. Daniel Velasquez says, hi everyone. Hi everyone. Should I check the water temperature on my incubator? Should you check the water temperature on your incubator? Honestly, I don't worry about checking the water temperature itself. If the incubator itself is, the temperature is reading right in the incubator, the water temperature. All right, let's see. Are we working again? I can't tell. It's working. Well, I don't know if it's my internet connection or my YouTube apps or what it is that's causing this problem. updated the YouTube app. Was hoping that would fix it, but apparently it didn't. I think we're back though. Somebody respond to me. Let me know. It's all good. Are we good? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. I think we're good. All right. There is a little bit of lag, so whenever I say something and you guys respond to me, it takes a minute for you to respond to me, so forgive me if I'm asking the same question multiple times. All right, so where were we at? Okay, DT Quail and Rabbitry says, have a proven dough. Oh, I was talking about relative humidity. I'm sorry, let me get that question answered first. Okay, measuring your water temperature. You can get a more accurate reading of humidity that way with relative humidity. You have to look up a chart. Let me raise my chair up. I feel like I'm a little kid here. Sit up a little bit higher in the seat there. There we go. Relative humidity, though, you measure the water temperature, you measure the air temperature, and then there's some math that you do, and you can look it up online. It's pretty easy. And just a calculation, and that'll tell you what your actual humidity is. Honestly, I don't worry about it that much. I don't find humidity that important. I just put as much water as the incubator will hold when I go into lockdown, and other than that, I don't worry about it too much. And I get pretty good hatch rates out of that. So, as far as measuring your water temperature, no, I don't really find that it is a necessity. All right, Hidden Bunnies. I saw your question. Is it fair to sell all my baby female quail for $3? Well, I mean, how many do you have? That's pretty cheap. Around here, the baby quail go for at least $1 a piece. Usually $1 more a piece the older they get. So every week-old quail would sell for $1, 2-week-old quail would sell for $2, 3-week-old for $3, 4-week-old for $4, 5-week-old for $5, and that's about the max they go for, is about $5 a piece. So I don't know that $3 is really worth it. You put some work into it. Selling many of them for $3, not really a great idea. All right, Shaylin Andre says, I live in the city. Would you think it's a good idea for me to get a few chickens? Well, it depends on your city where you live. I live in the city as well. And where I live, the part of the city I live in, I can have a couple of chickens, no problem whatsoever. The ordinance say it's okay. I can't have roosters, which makes sense. You don't want chicken roosters in town. That would get pretty obnoxious, pretty annoying pretty quick, and your neighbors would hate you. But I can have chickens, and it would work just fine for me here. So if you live in an area where the neighbor's going to be okay with it, maybe you're not too close to your neighbors, then heck yeah, why not get some chickens? It's up to you. If you want chickens, go for it. Psalm 105:40 Quail Farm says, finally made it. Well, glad you made it. Thanks for joining. Hey, let me ask you guys a question. Am I talking too loud enough? I feel like I'm screaming at the at the iPad here that's taking the video, but I want to make sure that it's not coming across too bad. I'll quiet down a little bit if I need to. Everything's good. Sound level's perfect. Okay, good deal. Excuse me. Take a drink here. I've been talking all day long. My throat's kind of not sore, but just kind of tired. All right. At what age would you put quail outside where nights are below 40s? I usually put quail outside when they're fully feathered out, usually about 3 weeks to 4 weeks old. That they're usually fine to go outside at that point. If it's super, super cold, by that I mean like in the teens or down to 0, I might wait till they're about 5 weeks old. But other than that, they pretty much go outside at about 3 weeks old when they're fully feathered out. I'm a little loud. Okay, so if I talk about like this is, hang on, let me start over. Okay, how about this? This is about normal talking volume for me. Is this loud enough? Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Good? Okay, if I need to talk louder, you tell me and I'll talk louder. I may get louder anyway because I spent a long time as a trainer and I'm used to projecting my voice out to large groups, so it kind of fall into that habit every once in a while, but it does strain my voice, so I'll try to talk a little bit quieter. If you guys need me to speak up, tell me, I'll speak up. All right, Adams TV says, help, my bobwhite quail hen is attacking and pecking the male bobwhite quail, the bobwhite quail male. Is this normal and what do I do? Thanks. Well, I'm not an expert on bobwhite quail, but quail in general, it's pretty normal for the females to get kind of aggressive. Usually they'll work it out. One thing you can do is make sure you don't have light on them like 24 hours a day. They need 14 hours a day of light in order to lay eggs. excuse me, to lay on a consistent basis and to breed, but you don't want to go much longer than that because that can lead to a little bit more aggression. They do need some nighttime. They do need some darkness to sleep, so that might help out a little bit with that. Generally, though, right when they first go into the breeding season, especially, there's a little bit of picking on each other and that kind of stuff that happens. And it's not uncommon for the females to pick on the males, especially if you've got too many males. But that'll usually work itself out and it'll smooth out pretty easily, pretty quick. All right, Harshman Mills says, oh, and hello, Michelle, glad to see you. Harshman Hills says, I know you've answered this question before, but at what age will quail start laying? It varies a little bit, usually about 6 to 8 weeks. So I wouldn't worry if they went 10 weeks, though. Anywhere from about 6 weeks to get your first eggs to about 10 weeks when they really start laying on a good cycle. When they first start laying, too, they're going to be kind of sporadic. You're not going to get a ton of eggs. And then over about 2 weeks, it takes them usually to kind of get into the cycle. And then they'll start laying on a pretty consistent basis at that point. All right, how big of a cage for rabbits would you suggest? I have standard Rexes, and how big would the nest boxes need to be? Okay, the cages, I would go, especially for your does that are going to be breeding, I would go at least 36 by 30 inch, because that will give them plenty of room to move around. And look at that, I got a super chat from Harshman. Thank you so much for the $2 there. I appreciate that. Where was that? Took me off track. Oh, size of cages. 36 by 30 inches is a pretty good standard size rabbit cage for even pretty good sized rabbits. 18 inches tall at least. They need, or 24 inches tall at least. They need enough room to stand up fully on their back legs inside the cage. And nest boxes, I would go with, what is it, 11 inches by 5.5 inches, I think is the width of mine, and about 10 inches tall. That's about the average size of my nest boxes. Hopefully that kind of gives you an answer on that. It's not exact, but somewhere right around in there is a good size for it. All right, Ethan says, hello there. When you use the light on your quails, do you turn the on in the morning or at dusk? Mine comes on at dusk. Ethan's, mine automatically comes on at dusk. What I do is I let it come on and I let it stay on until about time I go to bed, which is about 9:30. I go out and I turn it off, and then when I go out to check on them in the morning, which is about 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun's not up yet, I turn it back on. And then it goes off automatically when the sun comes up, and it comes back on automatically at dusk. So that's how I do mine. I'm working on a light right now. I've got a manufacturer in China working on one, and it should alleviate a lot of those problems. It should be the perfect light, but it's probably going to be fall somewhere right around in there before it gets here. Whenever it gets here, and I get to test it out, make sure it works well. I'm not sure I'm going to do that yet. I may have to do a Kickstarter or something like that to get the funding to get it kind of started. And then, but either way, I'll make sure I inform you guys. Jesse Jackson, $5 super chat. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Says, I have 2 rabbits, overgrown teeth. What can be done? Make sure you give them something to chew on. That's the first thing to do. Find something like, apple. Well, probably not apple would be best, but some kind of willow. Willow's a really good branch, and just give them a small branch like that, and give them something to chew on. That'll help them keep their teeth worn down. You can file their teeth down, but it makes me shiver every time I think about doing that. Don't want to. That's a horrible idea to me, but apparently it doesn't bother the rabbits too much. If you have a good vet in your area that might take care of them real cheap, that might be the best way to go with it, is take it to them, and they'll trim the teeth down. You can do that. I personally don't want to try to hold a rabbit and trim its teeth because it just makes me cringe thinking about that. But that's just me personally. But you could do that, and then just make sure they have something to chew on going forward. Willow's a good one because willow is kind of a natural dewormer. It will kind of help them fight off some parasites and stuff. And although worms are not a real common problem in rabbits, why not just give them some willow to chew on and to kind of help with that anyway. I use pretty much non-treated 2x4, so don't get pressure-treated wood, of course, but just a 2x4, just a chunk of 2x4. I throw it in there. They chew on that all the time, and it keeps their teeth kind of worn down a little bit. Hopefully that helps with that. Again, I just keep thinking back to filing teeth, and I'm like, horrible idea in my opinion, but sometimes you have to do that. It's better than letting the rabbits go with with overgrown teeth for sure. It can be a problem. Hopefully that answers that for you, Jesse. All right. The Toasted Rabbit says, do you find that some breeds of rabbits are more skittish or aggressive than others? Not necessarily breeds. I mean, the meat rabbits in general tend to be not as, I don't necessarily say that they're more aggressive, but they're just not as easily handled, not as friendly, not as cuddly. They tend to be just a little bit more skittish, I guess. But that's probably more, it has to do with more on how they're raised. And those are somewhat genetic traits. You can kind of calm down a skittish rabbit over time if you spend enough time with it, bring it enough treats, reward it for, all the being calm and submissive and all that. It can help with that, but it is somewhat of a genetic thing. I noticed. So the biggest thing is not to not to continue to breed aggressive rabbits. If you plan on growing the rabbits out to be future breeders, because chances are it's going to pass on some of that aggression. Um, so I don't think it's necessarily breeds of rabbits that do that. It tends to be more just it depends on where the rabbit came from, the genetics of the rabbit. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Now I do notice that the pet breed rabbits, like the Holland Lops and those kinds that you see in the pet stores all the time, Hot Tots and there's several of them, Mini Rexes, those things. They do tend to be a little bit more tolerant of being handled. Sometimes you'll find a skittish one, but they do tend to be just a little bit friendlier. But then again, you find exceptions to that all the time. And I also find that the bucks tend to be a lot more easy to handle, a lot more apt to come up to the front of the cage, like their forehead scratch, that kind of thing. The females tend to be more skittish too. All right, Shaylin Andre says, wait, I'm missing a couple. I'll get to yours in a second, Shaylin. Danielle says, two of my rabbits just had babies, 14 babies. Congratulations, fantastic. Hidden Acre says, hey Chris, should I sell my quail if I have 89 more quail chicks? Well, it's up to you. It's how many quail you want. I usually will sell, especially if I have a good hatch, I'll usually sell about 10 or 15 birds to help pay for the quail feed, and that generally will get me enough feed to feed my birds out for a month or two. So I try to do that just as a way to offset the cost of raising them. But that's up to you, however you want to handle that. I can't really give you the answer on that one. Shaylin says, is it expensive to own a few chickens? I don't own chickens right now, so it's not terribly expensive to own a few chickens. It depends on your cost of feed in your area, of course, how much they're going to be able to forage for their own feed. But you can do it pretty economical. There is going to be an expense initially getting into that because you're going to have to build a chicken coop, and that can get a little bit pricey, a couple $100. And investing in equipment and all that kind of stuff that you need. But that's a one-time expense, and then it kind of goes away after that. So I wouldn't say, expensive is a relative term, and what's expensive to you may not be expensive to me. Chances are it is, because things get pretty expensive pretty quick. I don't have tons of money, so it's I try to do things as frugally as I can. Hopefully that kind of answers that for you. All right, MJM Homestead says, would you recommend moving a doe to a bigger cage if they're in a 30 by 36 before she kindles, or would that cause too much stress for her? I don't know that it would cause too much stress for her, but my doe's cages are 30 by 36, and they do just fine in there. No problems whatsoever. So I don't think it's necessary to move them to a bigger cage. If you plan on doing it anyway, I wouldn't move her within like a week of her kindling, but there's no problem with moving her before that if you want to move her to a bigger cage. Oh, did we freeze up again? From the app's standpoint, it looks like it's running fine, but I can't tell if you guys can hear me and still keep going. No means no, I haven't frozen. We're still going? Okay, good. I've got the video running on another computer in the background, and it's frozen on there. But okay, let me see what I can get to on the chats here. Let me expand this a little bit so they quit going by so fast. All right, MT's got an answer here. I had a rabbit with bad case of, I think that's buck teeth, but it says butt teeth, which is kind of a funny thought. We cut them every other week with a flush cut wire cutters, and it worked fine. Yeah, that's what a vet would do too. That's one of those things that makes me just, it's like I can't even talk about it, licking a popsicle stick. I can't stand to watch people lick popsicle sticks or bite them, and I can't stand the thought of having to cut a rabbit's teeth. It just makes me, gives me the chills. I'd let somebody else do it. I'm not a big wuss, but those are There's just a couple of things that give me. It's like nails on a chalkboard. You know, that doesn't bother me so much, but yeah, I can't do it. So I'd call somebody else to do it. Um, all right. Hello from the Bahamas. Well, Psalms 105:40. Welcome from the Bahamas. You've been in here for a little while, but someday I'm going to have to come down and visit you just because I need to make a trip down to the Bahamas. Need to take the wife on a vacation. All right, J.R. Bailey says, just out of curiosity, have you ever owned or handled one of those German or Dutch giant bunnies? I've seen them before, but no, and they don't make good meat rabbits. They're bone. Were you talking about like Flemish giants or giant chinchillas? Giant chinchillas aren't bad, but Flemish giants especially, their bone to meat ratio is really, really low. So they have really big bones. You don't get as much meat out of them. They take a long time to grow out. They're just not the best meat rabbit ever. All right. Isabel says here in Canada, chicken feed runs $18 for 25 kilos. I'm not, because I'm an American and we do the stupid non-metric system, imperial system, I think. I don't know how much 25 kilos is. I can't remember in pounds. So I don't know if that's a good deal or not compared to what we get here. We buy by the pound. My quail feed cost me about $13 for a 50-pound bag. All right, Kinsey, the quail started laying 3 days ago. Congratulations. Moises says, make more bunny videos, bro, and hi from Mexico. Or if I said it right, Mexico, right? Well, hey, thanks for joining us all the way from Mexico. I will make some more bunny videos. I'm working on trying to get as many videos as I can. I got the course that I'm starting to work on for the quail. So I'll get as many of them in there as I can. I just got baby rabbits being born today, right now. So far she's had 2. That may be all she has. I don't know. May end up having to get a new rabbit. But I'll address all that on video, hopefully in next week's video. And just to let you know, too, I am trying to learn Spanish. Not doing great at it, but I've been taking some, doing some self-study and stuff on Spanish. So starting to pick up a little bit of Spanish. Who knows? Maybe I'll be fluent in it in a couple of years. All right, I know you're not an expert on bobwhite quails. How do you make them broody? They are housed in an aviary and are in pairs. I don't know if you can make them broody other than just leave the eggs in there for them, and hopefully they will get broody. But I don't know that there's a way to make them broody. I don't know the trick to that. Coternics really very rarely, if ever, go broody. I just collect the eggs and incubate them myself. Find much better results that way anyway. So, all right. I lost track here somewhere, so if I missed your question, I apologize for that. Ask again. I'll try to get back to it. I got to get back down to the more current chats here. Psalm says, okay, my quail food's cheap. It's $27 where you're at for 50 pounds. Well, I imagine that's probably has to do, you're in the Bahamas, so shipping probably is a big part of that. Shipping all that stuff. It's probably all imported, right? That would be my guess anyway. Yeah, 13 bucks is cheap even for around here, though. The next cheapest place I can get it is $18 a bag of 50. So, that's a big, it's a pretty good deal. But I'm lucky to have, and I got to drive about 25 miles to pick it up. But I get 4 or 5 bags at a time, so I only have to do it once every once in a while. But they mill their own food, so that's why it's cheap. There is no shipping. It takes out the middleman. Get a much better deal on it. All right, Michelle says, what do you think I should do? It's like over a 4-day period. They were added. It's freezing often and sending post back all the time. I'm not sure. What do I think you should do about what? I lost track. I'm sorry. It's a 4-day period since what were added. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Michelle. I can't answer that question. I'm not sure. I lost track of where it was going. Hidden Bunny says I should do Duolingo. Oh, you mean for learning Spanish? I may. Who knows? And Moises wants me to say some Spanish words. Oh boy, you're gonna put me on the spot right here in front of everybody. Keep in mind, I've been studying it for like a week and a half. So I've got like, let's see, what can I say besides the obvious, hola and buenos dias. Gracias. I've learned how to say, what else have I learned? I don't know. I'll come back to that maybe, but those are a few. Those are the easy ones that everybody knows. So I do know a little bit more than that, but I'm not that good at it yet. Danielle's got a good deal on quail food. $9 for a 50-pound bag. That's a good one. Rabbit's Q&A says Kome te Yama. I think you got that wrong. I think it's Como te Yamas. Or Como tu Yamas, right? Como tu Yamas? What's your name? Yo habla. It would be hablo. Yo hablo. Are your, I don't know what that means. All your, is that all your Nagna? I don't know what that means, so got that one wrong. You guys, whoever knows Spanish, you can throw some Spanish words at me. I'll see if I know them or not. All right, Maddie says, what should I do if my doe does not want to lift and she lets out a little squeal? Squeal, I think is what you're saying. It depends on a lot of things. Try increasing the light, first of all. Get them about 14 hours a day of light. That can help a lot. You can also, the biggest thing you can do with a doe that's reluctant is just keep trying over and over and over again. Morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, every day. And usually they're induced ovulators, so it's the act of breeding that gets them to ovulate. They don't go into heat or anything like that necessarily. So that act of the male trying to breed with her can a lot of times put her in the mood to breed, and she might be a little bit more more receptive after a couple of days. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I gotta quit looking at chat while I'm answering a question. I get distracted by what's going on. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Just try over and over and over again. Usually by about 3-4 days in, she's more receptive and she'll lift for him. You can get to a point where you can kind of force breed them, but I usually find that that's not really necessary. If she's a first-time breeder, be patient. She'll eventually start breeding. All right, so what else I got? Como se llama? There we go. Como se llama? There. Yeah, you're right. You got that one. J.R. Bailey got it. Okay, Psalm 105 says, I saw your video about putting young quail with old ones. You said wait till about 5 to 6 weeks. Should I leave the new young males in a separate pen? I think they have too much males if I combine them all. That's not a bad idea. I generally don't. I generally take out my extra roosters, or sometimes it depends. I'll leave my young roosters in there and take out my old roosters, and just they'll be dinner. And that's a good way to kind of replace your roosters that you've got in there with fresh blood. You can, there's a lot of ways you can just do it. But yeah, most of the time what I'll do, if I'm not planning on getting rid of any of my current birds, then yeah, I'll separate out my extra roosters, and they'll go in a grow out pen by themselves, and they'll just grow up to about 8 weeks old, and then they go to freezer camp. Oh, J.R. Bailey said, you speak German, but you wrote it in Spanish. Okay. Well, I don't speak German, so that's German. That's not German. That's not the word for German, is it? I'm having a hard time reading that. Is that I can't remember the word. Can't pronounce it either. You're getting a joke out of this, huh? Say Elver Galarga. Elver Galarga? That means neighbor? Elver Galarga. That means neighbor, huh? Elver Galarga? Okay. Oh, it's not Galarga, it's Galarga. Okay. And it's pronounced a little differently than that, right? Elver Galarga. Am I getting it right? Hopefully I got it right. All right. Rabbit's Q&A says, I sell pine shavings mixed with rabbit manure and hay leftovers. I'll do a large garden trimmings bag for $15 per $15. Great side gig. Rabbits. That's a good point. Selling your rabbit manure, especially this time of year, we're going into spring. Although it doesn't feel like spring here in Southwest Missouri. We had a hard freeze 2 days ago. Which reminds me, if you guys have been watching my gardens videos, I told you something like this was going to happen because I'm putting it out for the world to see. We got a hard freeze, and I got trapped at work. Couldn't get away. Had to go to dinner with. We had a client in. Ended up going to dinner with him. I say trapped. It wasn't bad. It was good. Get to spend time with the clients, build some relationships, those kinds of things. But it means I didn't get home until like 9:30 at night, and I had to get up the next morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning to get back. I had to work out of the town about 60 miles away. Anyway, long story short, I didn't get my cover over my low tunnels, and all my plants in the garden went through a hard freeze. I think I'm going to lose most of them. So it sucks. Rabbits, we're not in Texas here. This is Southwest Missouri. Our last frost date's not until about April 20th, so it's really not that late for us to get a hard freeze. There's a good chance that we're going to get snow tomorrow night. So it's It's really, I mean, we were 70 degrees a couple of days ago, and it was 60 degrees today, and then there's a good chance we'll get snow tomorrow night. So it doesn't feel like spring necessarily, but all right. I'm going to have to quit saying what you're telling me, Moises, I think. Am I pronouncing your name right? I don't know. Because I'm afraid you're going to be telling me to say something, that's just offensive, maybe. You could get me to say it. What is Rosa Milano? I don't know what that means. Milano? Rosa Milano. I don't know what that means. Alemán. There we go. That's German. Joseph got it. All right. Thoughts on breeding rabbit mum day after birth or 2 weeks after or after weaning? It depends on what you want to accomplish, rabbits. You can breed them as soon as like day after and do really intensive breeding. My opinion is that's a little bit hard on the rabbits. I would wait. Usually I would breed no sooner than about 4 weeks, because at 4 weeks old, then 2 weeks later, her baby bunnies are 6 weeks old, and you should be able to start weaning them off and give her a couple of weeks without babies before she has her next litter. So that's kind of how I would do it. I typically don't breed except for I breed them at about 8 weeks after. So, and I try to keep my does on a rotation. So whenever, like my doe just had babies today, the other one's babies are 6 weeks old. So in 2 weeks they'll either be butchered or they'll be off on their own, and I'll breed her again. So when she has her babies, the babies that just got born today will be 6 weeks old, and then 2 weeks later I'll be breeding that doe. So I kind of keep that rotation going. That's how I do it. But you can do it a number of different ways. If you do that intensive breeding, where it's like, as soon as she has the babies, you rebreed her, or 2 weeks later, you can do that, but you are going to wear your does out a little bit quicker. They'll produce a lot, but they won't produce it over as long of a period. It probably equals out to about the same in the end. But it just depends on what you need to get out of them. All right, excuse me, guys. I got a phlegm today or something. I don't know. Psalm 105 says, yes, I wonder too. I'm not sure what you wonder too about. If quail need shade or full sun. I see your pins are in the sun. They're not in full sun, though. There is a section that's constantly shaded. I wouldn't put them out in full sun. Always give them somewhere where they can get to that's out of the sun, that's shaded. They do like to get in the sun every once in a while. But leaving them in full sun where it's full sun all the time is it can cause some problems for them. So it's best to make sure that you give them at least somewhere where they can get into shade, and not just the shade of the pen. I try to have, like, they're kind of, my cages are nestled up right along the tree line, so the trees kind of hang over and they provide some shade onto the cage, aside from what the cage provides for the quail, if that makes sense. Because in the summertime it gets real hot. And most animals, chickens, quail, rabbits, all of those, they really don't handle the heat very well. They handle the cold better than they handle the heat. So it's best to make sure that you do give them some shade to get out of the sun. All right, Nikki Warner says, I need to learn how to process quail. Do you have any videos on that? Yeah, I do have a video on how to butcher quail. If you do, you probably do a YouTube search on how to butcher quail, and you can find my video pretty easily. Or you can go back and scroll through my my videos and should be able to find it. Get goats, huh? Who said that? I've lost track. It disappeared somewhere. Or was that you that retracted your question? Maybe, I don't know. J.R. Bailey says, thank you, Joseph. I probably used the French spelling and forgot. I used to live in Germany. Okay, you're talking about the spelling of, I've already forgotten the word, German. Algoron? Or I can't remember it now. Okay, we're getting half in snow tonight. I'm in Ohio. You're getting a half-inch of snow tonight, Nikki. Yeah, I saw that there was a pretty bad storm way north of us. I mean, it's moving across the country to the north. We don't know yet if it's going to be rain, if it's going to be snow, if it's going to be a mix of the two. They're saying we could get up to an inch or two, but it's going to be like in the 40s, so it won't stick around that long. It'll melt off pretty quick. And J.R. Bailey's getting another spring storm in central Wyoming. Okay, do quail need full sun? I see okay, we got that answered. Did I miss something? Hidden bunnies? I'm sorry if I missed your comment or question. Melissa says, going to the gym. Well, you're way more ambitious than me. I don't go to the gym. Have fun. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And maybe we'll see you next week. Rabbit's Q&A says, we wait when a litter is at 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, that's kind of how I do it. Diplomatic Diplomer says, what does a black beak mean? I don't know that it means anything, honestly. Some birds just have black beaks. I don't know that it's a problem at all. Psalm 105 says, so they would get enough light for egg production under trees. Yeah, they don't need direct light. They just need daylight. And not even daylight. You can put artificial lighting there to extend the daylight to 14 hours a day. But yeah, they could be in constant shade and they're still going to lay eggs. They just need light. They don't need direct sunlight in order to do that. Rabbit's Q&A says, any tips on skinning methods that keep fur fairly clean for saving to use? Oh, you mean for rabbits, skinning them? I've never had a problem with fur. I mean, if you're... Yeah, I don't know. I've never had a problem with skinning a rabbit and having the fur that bad. It usually washes out pretty easily and pretty good. So I don't know that there's any special trick that I do. I'm trying to think. Wet it down beforehand, but that's more to keep the fur off the meat than it is to keep the fur clean. Try not to, don't cut the rabbit's head off before you pull the skin down. Pull the skin down, cut the skin away, then cut the rabbit's head off. That way there's not a lot of blood that gets all over the fur. Those are the only things that I can think of right offhand. Hidden Bunny says, Chris, do you do shout-outs? Other than the live broadcast where we talk to each other, I do sometimes, but not on a regular basis. All right, Michelle says, I got myself in a problem. Quail eggs collected and have been added daily over 4 days to the incubator. Do not know when I should... Oh, no. Don't know when you should lock them down. Can you lock down on day 11? Some will be 12, 13, 14 days incubating. Boy, that is kind of a predicament there. I always save all my eggs up, put them all in the incubator at the same time to kind of avoid that situation. But now that you're in the situation that you're in, I think what I would do is wait till day 15 when the oldest ones in there are on day 15, the very start of day 15, and then I would put them into lockdown. And hopefully you get a good hatch that way. Aloha Quail stopped in to say hi. Working tonight, huh? Well, hopefully they're not working you too hard. Thanks for stopping by. Hope things are going well. All right, Quez, would you ever get goats? I'm getting some next week and need tips. I might get goats at some point. It's not something that's high on my priority list. My neighbor has goats. She's got 3 pygmy goats that kind of run around her backyard. They're cool. I like them. They come over to the fence, say hi. I feed them little branches. As far as tips on taking care of them, get a good sturdy fence. They are rough on fences. Make sure you don't have anything near the fence that they can get. They'll climb it if they can get near it. Like if there's a tree and a fence, they'll get in between the tree and the fence and they'll climb the fence. Go right over it. They want to jump on everything. I mean, they will get up on top of everything that they can get on. It's a good idea to put some things out for them to do that. So it's just a natural behavior that they want to do. Give them something to jump on and don't put anything out there you don't want them jumping on. And they will eat everything, everything. So don't put any plants out in the yard there that you plan on keeping because they'll eat it. All right. Okay, JR says, when you skin your rabbits, do you use a methodology that allows you to keep the pelt intact for later sale? No. When I'm skinning rabbits, they're only 8-week-old rabbits. The pelt's not really in optimal condition to be selling. You're going to have a hard time selling it for anything other than just craft use. It's not really, they don't have their full heavy coat in to be good to use for like clothing and some of those kinds of things. So not that you can't use it for that, but you're not going to be able to sell it very well to anybody that wants to use it for those things. All right, Psalm 105. This is a live stream. This live stream is so awesome. A worldwide class on producing your own meat in your spare room, or heck, even on your balcony. LOL. Yeah, no kidding. I've got quail in my spare room right now. They're over here in the incubator. Maybe before, I don't know. I can't go over and peek in it right now. I need to leave it closed. I was going to say we could take the camera over there and show them off before I end the broadcast, but that's not going to work. I'm going to have to wait till tomorrow morning before I open the incubator. I was able to see through the glass well enough to see that there's some in there that are not fluffed up yet. they're still wet, so that makes me think there's still some that are pipping and hatching. So I can't open the incubator, unfortunately. I shouldn't have brought it up, huh? Joe Shelburne says, you've got 14 litters of baby bunnies. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of rabbits. I've got one litter that's about 6 weeks old, and then one litter being born today. Rabbits Q&A says, do you bleed them immediately after dispatch? Doesn't that affect the meat if you don't? Yeah, I do bleed them immediately after dispatch, but I don't cut the head completely off necessarily. I cut the throat to bleed them out because, yeah, it can affect the meat, and I don't know, it's just what I do. It's always been taught to bleed out an animal as quickly as you can. J.R. Bailey says, do I remember correctly that you can keep eggs up to 10 days that remain viable prior to starting the incubation cycle? You can, up to 10 days. I usually don't go for more than 7. After 7, you do see a little bit of a drop, but 10 days is, it's pretty good. You're still going to get pretty good results out of eggs saved for 10 days, assuming you're not saving them in an area that's like, 80 degrees. You need to keep them a little bit cool. 50 to 70 degrees is probably ideal. I just use a cooler in the summertime. In the wintertime, I just put them out in the garage because it stays like 60 degrees all winter long. But in the summertime when it's hot out, I put them in a cooler with an ice pack. Not directly on the eggs, but in the cooler itself, and that just keeps it kind of cool. Quez says, have you ever had a rotten egg in the incubator on accident? Yeah, well, I've had eggs that didn't develop go rotten in the incubator. And you don't want to pop those in your incubator. It's nasty. It's nasty for sure. Rebecca says, hey, Chris, people on YouTube talk a lot about the health benefits of quail eggs. Do you have any insights on this? I know you did a video once, but what is your experience? Well, I've got lots of people talk about that, and I don't have experience with, because in that video, again, lots of health benefits to quail eggs. There's actually been scientific studies showing how they're used, and pretty effectively, to treat lots of different things. But to get that, you have to eat them raw. And I don't really eat my eggs raw. And as far as, eating them all the time, are they giving me health benefits? I'm not really a sickly person, so I don't know that I can answer that. I don't know that I buy into that they're like super healthy and all that kind of stuff. To me, they just taste good, and it's a good egg. It's a good source of eggs for me. I don't have to go to the grocery store and buy them. That's why I raise them. But yes, there is, again, scientific evidence that they are very effective in treating multiple different things, from eczema to diabetes to, all kinds of things that you never would have even thought of. But again, you've got to eat them raw in order to get that. And there's a specific chemical that's in them that causes that. And if you cook them, you don't get that benefit out of them. So, who knows? Walt is here from a bus in California. Well, Walt, thanks for taking the time to stop by. All right, would you put a brooder box with a heat lamp with quail chicks in an unheated garage that gets down to the 20s? Well, it depends. If the heat lamp is sufficient enough and it's close enough to keep the the brooder around 100 degrees, then yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with keeping it in there. If you don't have a sufficient, you need to keep it pretty close to 100 degrees at least for the first week. So if you can't do that with a heat lamp, at least part of the box at 100 degrees, then you might keep them inside for a week or two and then move them out to the unheated garage. That's kind of what I do. I'm going to start these guys, they're coming out of the incubator tomorrow. They're going to start in the brooder box in the house. Part of the reason for that, most of the reason for that, honestly, is if I put them out in the garage, I'm not sure what my dog's going to do. So I'm going to put them in the house where I can keep a little bit better eye on him, keep him away from them. He is part bird dog. He really likes birds. So I don't want him to, I'm not so much worried about him eating them, but he may, try to get into the brooder box. I don't want him to knock a heat lamp over, any of those kinds of things. All right. DT Quail and Rabbitry says, have a proven doe give birth on the wire and lost all 8. She usually is a great mom and builds a great nest. We did move her to a new cage 2 weeks earlier. Could this have made her do this? I don't know. That very well could be the issue. She's not used to the cage. Who knows? Maybe it stressed her out. Any number of things, or it could have just been a fluke. Usually, it's weird though for, like you said, a proven mom that does a great job of building nests to have her babies on the wire. That's usually like a first-time mom thing. Very strange. but it's something to keep an eye on. Maybe that's a good point. Maybe you don't move them, 2 weeks before kindling. Maybe you do it earlier than that. Right as soon as they're bred or something like that. Give them time to get acclimated to their new cage. All right, Joseph says, do you need any genetic variation in your quail, or are they fine just breeding with each other? I know there could be some health problems. Well, there could be over time. It's not a big concern, though. I try to add a little bit of new blood into, like, get roosters from a different source somewhere and add that into my flock about once every year and a half or 2 years. Other than that, it's not that big of a concern. All right, Rabbits Q&A says, what breed do you recommend best for clothing? If you want to make clothing out of rabbits, so you want to keep their pelts, probably the Rexes are going to be your best dual purpose. They've got a really nice pelt, and they make a good meat rabbit. Giant chinchillas wouldn't be bad either. But again, you're going to have to let the rabbits, if you want to make clothing out of them and really good quality stuff, you're going to have to let them grow out probably a year to a year and a half before you butcher them and get their coats off of them. And you need to make sure that they have their winter coat on, because their winter coat is much, much heavier, much thicker. So that's really the way you want to do that. Cora just locked down 40 quail today. Well, hey, good luck with your hatch. I think I put 50 eggs in the incubator. I'm not sure how many have hatched yet. We're going to find out tomorrow morning. Psalm 105 says, you said wait till about 5 to 6 weeks with adding young quail. Should I leave the new young males in a separate pen? I already have too much old males. Will they be okay in the same 8x4 pen with a dirt floor? I think we already talked about this. Maybe you missed my answer, or who knows, a video froze up or something. Yeah, typically I do. If I've got extra males and I'm not planning on replacing any roosters, then yeah, I just put them in their own pen, in a grow-out pen, grow them out to 8 weeks, and then they go to the freezer. If I'm looking at replacing some of my existing roosters, maybe get some younger roosters in there, then I'll just go ahead and send the older roosters to the freezer and go ahead and move them into that pen. So you can do it a number of different ways. Cora K says, gave our friend a dozen males today. He and his brother will be smoking them this weekend. Yummy. Smoked quail. I don't think I've ever smoked quail. I've smoked rabbits before, and that's pretty good. But don't think I've ever smoked quail. No reason you shouldn't, though. It sounds like a great idea. Oh, no need to apologize, Sam. I just wasn't sure if... I thought I'd answered it, but I wasn't sure if maybe... Who knows what happened. Either way, we got an answer for you. Hopefully that helps. Okay, Lady Darkstreak says, how often do you incubate quail eggs? Do you wait for the last lot to be a certain age before hatching more? It depends. I do it a lot of different ways. What I'll typically do is, I've only got one grow out pen made out there, and it's not a very big grow out pen. I need to build a new pen this year. So what I'll typically do is I'll raise these out till about 6 weeks old, and then I'll start another batch. Because by the time those hatch and get in the brooder and are ready to go to the grow out pen, those are ready to go to the freezer. So there's not necessarily any certain age that I wait to necessarily, but that's kind of a rough guideline, I guess. Sean Lowe says, thank you very much for your videos, researching and getting ready to start up with Coturnix within the next few weeks. Keep it up. Well, thanks so much for watching. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. All right, J.R. Bailey says, I'm considering purchasing a GQF Sportsman 1502 with the watering accessories because I intend to go into selling eggs and meat on a regular basis. What are your thoughts on the Sportsman's model? I'm not real familiar with them. I know that GQF has a pretty good reputation, so I think you could do worse. I think that would probably work well for you, but I can't speak specifically to it. I'm not that familiar with them. One thing I would say is you might want to check and see what the market is for quail, eggs, and meat in your area. Make sure there's a market there. Chances are, if there's not a lot of people selling quail, there's not a market for it. I think a lot of people will look at that and say, oh, nobody else is selling quail in this area, I'm going to do great. Well, nobody else may be selling quail because nobody wants them. That may be the case. I just don't want you to get in over your head and then have no market to sell them to. Around here, selling quail it's hit or miss. It's not a real strong market. I can sell a few, usually out of about every hatch, but not on a consistent basis. All right. Ashton says, I have a question about palpating rabbits. Do you do it? And if so, what tips do you have? I don't do it. I've done it before. It's incredibly hard to do, and it takes a lot of experience. You don't know exactly what you're feeling. You don't know if you're feeling babies or not. So it's a little bit of guesswork. Um, as far as tips to go, I mean, it's a pretty simple concept. You hold the rabbit, you reach up underneath it, very close to the back end on the belly, and you push up on the belly with your fingers, and you kind of feel along. You want to push up hard enough, don't squish the rabbit, but push up hard enough where you can almost feel the spine, and just feel along there. You're feeling for little grape size bumps inside there, but it's a very very difficult thing to do. I don't do it. I find that my rabbits, if there were successful fall offs, they're pretty much always pregnant, so I just don't worry about palpating. Alex says, my doe keeps on peeing on her babies. What is the reason and why? Sounds like bad mothering instincts. Honestly, I would look at getting a new mother rabbit. That's my opinion. Some rabbits will do that. I've never had too many problems with that myself. Occasionally, it'll be like they'll do it one time if they're a first-time mom, but then they never have a problem with doing it afterwards. But if it's something that's consistent and it keeps going, I would get rid of her, get a new rabbit. That's my opinion. Rabbits Q&A taken off. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. God bless you as well, and you have a good night. Rebecca says, for aging the quail, do you start from incubation date or hatch date? You're talking about if you want to know how old a quail is. Interesting. I've never thought about it. I don't really keep that close a track to them, or a close. Boy, that was a weird one. I don't really keep that close of an eye on the exact day they were born to tell you. But yeah, when I'm talking about like a 6-week-old quail, that's generally from the day they come out of the incubator, or the day they hatch, really, because they're only in the incubator for 2 days before they go into the brooder box anyway. So really, it's from the day that they hatch. That's what I consider day one, and then 6 weeks from there is 8 weeks from there, whatever. All right, JR says, thanks for the input, Chris. I truly do appreciate it. Doing the on-the-ground research is the next phase of my research, by going to restaurants and speaking with owners. Well, good luck. I hope it works out well for you. I'm not trying to discourage you. I just want to make sure that you don't jump in, like I said, too far and get in over your head. Tim Outdoor says, I keep losing my internet connection. I have my rabbits cages at a slight incline, so the poop will roll out. Will it cause them to grow bow-legged? I don't think it will cause them to grow bow-legged. If you've got, I don't think it will anyway. I've never thought about tilting a rabbit cage. I think what you'll probably find, and maybe I'm wrong, but in my experience, rabbit poop doesn't roll that well. So it may be kind of, it may not really work all that well. I don't know. The urine will run out for sure if you've got a solid bottom cage. But that's one of the reasons I use wire cages, so the droppings just fall right through. But it doesn't typically, like I said, the manure doesn't typically roll all that well. It just kind of sticks wherever it lands. Well, if you have wire, Tim, I'm not sure there's a reason to tilt the cages themselves. If they're on wire, it's just going to fall right through anyway. But, I mean, hey, who knows? All right, Hidden Bunny says, Chris, you know how I was talking about the 2 females that died from laying an egg? I do remember that, yeah. You've had a third one die from laying an egg? That's crazy. I wish I knew what was causing that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to tell you to do on that. Honestly, I've never had that problem. Are you feeding them lots of extra calcium? That's the only thing I can think of right off the top of my head that may be causing that. Extra calcium can make for super thick eggshells. I don't know that I've ever heard it, causing problems with birds dying from laying eggs, but boy, that's the only thing I can come up with right off the top of my head. I wish I had a better answer for you. I just don't know. Boris, you made it. Don't worry about being late. Although it is pretty late, isn't it? Yeah, we got about 5 minutes here before I got to wrap this up. Got to go spend some time with the family. Been a busy week. Had clients in all week, so Been at work late every night. Haven't got to spend a whole lot of time with the family this week. All right, JR says, could the gal with the egg binding problem help her situation with a lot more chlorophyll intake for them? That is to say, a lot more greens. Good thought, JR. I don't know, honestly. I'd have to research that a little bit to see what the fix might be. I don't know what you're feeding them, though, Hidden Bunnies. Are you feeding them a game bird starter? Is it a layer ration? I don't know what you're feeding them, but that may be something. There may be some vitamins or supplements that you can add to kind of help that problem. All right, Alana says, I have a pair of white New Zealand sisters that are now 5 months old. They have both become aggressive. What to do with them? Well, aggressive rabbits are difficult to deal with. My opinion, you either have a lot of patience and wear gloves when you handle them, or you just eat them. Because you can, we were talking about this earlier, you can kind of eventually maybe get them to calm down if you bring them enough treats. Sometimes you'll find too, though, that an aggressive rabbit, once she's bred and has babies, she's no longer aggressive. She's just calm and mellow. I find my doe right now is the other way around. She's pretty calm and mellow most of the time. When she has babies, she's aggressive. She's hard to deal with and difficult. So if it bothers you and you can't handle them, then just eat them. Get some new rabbits. I know that's kind of cruel and sounds horrible, but that's the easiest solution. Tim says, I want to say thank you and bless you and your family, and thank you for taking the time out of your day and night to teach us. Well, thank you guys for joining. I appreciate it. I wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't anybody in the chat to talk to. So it's just as much you guys as it is me. And Isabel, you have a good night as well. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Walt's got a good point. He says, compare the cost of getting a GQF hatcher to the cost of 3 or 4 styrofoam incubators. Yeah, that's a good point. Hidden Bunnies, I might have watched some of your channel, but I don't remember specifically. I'm not sure. If you're not feeding them game bird food, I'm not sure what you are feeding them, so I don't know right offhand. I can't remember. I think I did check out your channel one time, but I'm sorry, I got so many things going on, it's hard for me to remember one from another. I don't know if I did. JR, you said, did I answer the question about the 7 or 8 degrees? I don't remember a question about 7 or 8 degrees. Where did that go? Okay, I see it now. Okay, you're talking about quail ages. You intend to have your quail cages 3 foot wide, 6 foot long. Is a 7 or 8 degree incline enough for a gentle roll of eggs? Let's see, 7 or 8 degree incline would that would be a very slight incline, wouldn't it? I'm honestly not sure. I can't remember how much what that actually looks like. I think you may have to go a little bit more than that, but not a lot. The eggs will roll fairly easily. You'll still get some that'll get stuck on wire cages because they'll be, the way they'll be laid, they'll be oblong instead of, the way that they'll roll. So they may get stuck, but, it should work. All right, what time we got here? All right, time to start getting this wrapped up pretty quick. JR, did you get my answer to that now? And Hidden Bunnies wants to know, are blue barriers cheap for you? I don't know what blue barriers are. So I'm not sure if I can answer that one, Hidden Bunny. I'm sorry. All right, guys, I got to wrap this up. I got to go spend some time with the family. Thank goodness tomorrow is Friday. So, berries. Blueberries? Are blueberries cheap, huh? It depends. When they're in season, they're not terrible. But they do tend to run a little bit expensive, so I don't buy blueberries on a regular basis. All right, thank you guys for joining this video so much. I appreciate it, and for spending some time with me. And come back again next week. We'll do it all over again. And I do want to say thank you so much. God bless every one of you guys. And we will see you next time. Buenas noches to you as well. Good night.